Hello and welcome to another special edition of the Go Fish Village podcast. I'm the host of Go Fish Village, Joshua Mercer, where we help folks just like you achieve financial freedom through real estate. I'm also a realtor with Premier Chicago Real Estate. Today, we have a very special guest. We got a mogul, we got a boss. We got a boss in the building. We got a Esquire. This woman's real estate journey is very intriguing when I first talked to her. So I'm glad to have you on the show. My fellow Bison, Tia Lance, welcome to the show.
Happy to be here. HU.
Yes, yes, all of that good stuff, man. So Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy New Year, all of that.
All of that.
We're gonna root for the Redskins. This gonna be the Washington football
Washington
team.
football team.
This gonna be the year. It's gonna be the year. Every year is gonna be the year. But anyway, Tia Lance, thanks again for coming on. Real quick, I love your real estate journey. Sounds like you took a risk and it paid off. Can you just break it down for me? How did your real estate journey begin?
Sure. So I never set out to be a real estate investor at all. It's not my history or anything. As you mentioned, the Esquire, I went to law school. That's what I was going to do. Um, 10 years out of law school, I recognized that there's just got to be a better way. It's got to be a faster way. And I always had heard that real estate was a fast track and a good avenue to building wealth. Um, I began real estate really by purchasing my own property and then moving out and moving somewhere else. That's how I became a landlord at first. But that wasn't really real estate investing, although now it's part of my portfolio. 3 years ago now, or going into 3 years ago, I had a family friend who told me that there were some properties that were available in Atlanta around something called the Atlanta BeltLine. I had been following the BeltLine. I knew what was going on in the city. The BeltLine was essentially a railway that was going around the city, and I paid attention to the values of the home that were along the BeltLine and decided that it's something I should invest in. I was scared to invest. I didn't think I had enough money to do it. Time, knowledge, skill, know-how. So the first time around, I asked a couple people if they would partner with me, family members, personal people, and everyone said no. They said, no, don't think that's a good idea, or I don't want to do it, or some excuse. Um, Same family friend came back months later and was like, I really think that you should invest in this particular area. And so I did. I purchased my first property, really sight unseen. The homes were so dilapidated that I literally was looking at the wrong house. But I purchased the house, having never purchased an investment property before. It was a complete tear down. I mean, it just looked horrible on the insides, not livable at all. It needed to be rebuilt. It needed new bedrooms, new structure. And I really taught myself the entire process. Everyone that was doing what it was that I was trying to do, I kind of connected with them. I took countless people to dinner or lunches, conversations, DMs, just trying to learn about how to do this thing. HGTV, watching all those shows, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Um, and ultimately, that's what I did from beginning to end. Became friends with some people downstairs at City Planning, got myself an architect, designed my first house, found myself a contractor. That ended up being horrible, and I lost some money on that. But ultimately, the project was successful. I ended up building and renovating a home, which I still have, that
Wow.
in it that brings me monthly income. But it was that initial project that showed me really quickly how real estate investment properties can completely change your net worth and bring you income instantly. And I've been doing it ever since.
So how many properties do you have now?
6 properties now.
Wow, six
I'm in the
properties.
process right now of finishing what I hope will be my first 6-figure flip. And
Oh
so
wow.
that pretty much means that hopefully when I sell this property in the next 30 to 45 days, I'll walk away after recouping my all-in price with the 6-figure profit.
Oh, we good. We kicking it then. We
Hope
kicking it.
so.
We kicking it. We going to Sizzler and all that. We going
All of that.
to Magic City, all of that. Anyway, maybe not. But so okay, so you everybody's telling you no, why keep going? I mean, you have a secure job. I mean, you a lawyer, for crying out loud. Why keep going?
Because um so real estate, what I've learned so much about real estate is truly how much freedom it gives you and how it can literally change your monthly income. I mean, just one property can bring you 500, 1,500 additional dollars a month. And once you start adding those up, it just makes sense. I think I was working. I did have a job. I still have a job. I have a great job. I should add that I do this on top of working a full time executive job, being full time single mom.
A
It's
boss.
definitely possible to do
Wow.
on top of everything else if you organize and plan your time. But it just, the saying goes, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. This makes a lot of sense. And after I saw how quickly that investment turned into additional monthly income, I wanted to keep going.
I think what a lot of people miss is, like you said, like the net worth piece, because that net worth piece is not, you're not, you're not, it's not coming into your bank account. But when you go for a loan and you got to fill out that statement of net worth, and you're like, oh, damn, I didn't know that I was worth this much. And that's really where the real wealth is created, in terms of net worth. So the first property you buy, when you say tear down, you had to demolish the place?
Yes, it had to be demo. Nothing was salvageable. So at this point, I've had quite a few properties, some properties that have fallen all the way down, but with the first property, yes, had to get a demo team in. And my initial demo team was really friends. And I have progressively
Wow.
better along the way to being able to hire people to do demo completely.
Now, how do you do that? Because my first or my second place it wasn't a tear down, but it was a complete gut, like everything down to the bricks. Everything was taken away. And how did you go about building relationships with architects and city planners and contractors? That's incredibly hard, because a lot of those high skill positions have to come from referrals.
Yes. I finding a great general contractor is probably the number one thing that can make or break you. I mean, they are in charge of project management. They are in charge of managing the scope of the project, the budget, and making sure that you're on time. And those things are critical. And those have been some really hardcore lessons. Networking, I would say, and for me, my first general contractor was taking a risk. I would not recommend that. Recommend doing some research and doing some interviews, knowing what you want to get out of a contractor in general. And then finding people who do good quality work for an affordable price and maintaining them. So I got my tile guy from someone who I saw on Instagram was doing some tile work. Or those
Wow.
and dinners that I was taking people on, those personal relationships, I would reach out to them and say, hey, I'm looking for a good plumber. Do you have a plumber? And they would refer someone. So just talking to people until you can build yourself a good team. And I'm still working on my team. Each project, I learned something new. The project I'm working on now, I had a painter in place. Painter didn't show up. Painter wasn't there for a week. My neighbor was also renovating, and I saw their van outside and spoke to them. And they showed up and did a phenomenal job on the exterior of my house. So just always being vigilant. And I would say always be on the lookout for another contractor, because in busy seasons, like right now, people are busy. They're tied up on other people's projects. So you need like a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. But you can find them without knowing anyone in the industry.
Okay, so on this first one that you buy, did you buy that straight cash, or did you finance that with the bank?
Great question. Money was probably my biggest fear starting off on this project. I just wasn't knowledgeable about how to use somebody else's money to build these homes, which is what I'm doing right now. Right now, the home that I have used entirely someone else's money to build the project. I'm going to pay them back and then recoup all the profits for myself. But to answer your question, for that initial project, I did use cash. So I used money that
Man,
I had.
ooh, that's a tough one. And you dove deep in there, like for a gut rehab project to use your own money. That's
The purchase price was 50,000, but I will say this, I had other avenues available to me. So I know a lot of people feel a lot of different ways about different avenues of money. For example, if you have, long-term employment or a pretty good 401k, a lot of programs like mine will allow you to borrow against your 401k. Mine didn't have a penalty for doing that for the reason I was doing it. And the interest that I was paying back to myself. That's just one way that you can get the money. So for that project, I did borrow a portion of my own 401k. And of course, you pay it right back because when you sell or you rent or you do what's called a cash out refinance, you get all of your money back and you're able to recoup wherever you loan the money from. My first time around, I went in the bank and I took out some cash from my money market savings account. I would never do that again because there's just no reason to. You have I have excellent credit, but I've seen it happen for people who have good credit. There are hard money lenders. If you have a good contractor who can keep you on time and keep you within budget, there are so many different ways to get financing in order to not only purchase, but be able to completely renovate these properties in a timely manner without having to touch your own cash.
How many years ago was this project? The first one?
3 years ago.
How many?
3 years ago.
Wow, 3 years ago. So you tear this crib down and then you rebuild it. And what's the cost to develop the property?
Well, there's what the contractor told me it would cost, and there's what I actually paid. To date, I have not had a project where I have stayed 100% on budget.
Oh, that's not gonna happen. They love the word contingencies. They love that word.
Right. My first project, it took about 100,000. So I was all in at 150,000.
Okay.
150,000. And then that property appraised for 210. So had I sold that would have been a $60,000 profit if I had sold it right away. I chose not to sell that right away and to put Tenants to do a cash out refinance, which basically is getting all the money back and placing a mortgage on that property. I have Tenants who pay 3 times the mortgage. So they cover the mortgage and then I take the money on top of that.
They were paying 3 times the mortgage?
Yeah.
Damn. So what's the benefit of having tenants in a house versus like a condo or an apartment building?
Condos. So if I could get my hands on a duplex, those would be preferred because it's the same property, more income, more doors, same property, always better. But condos I try to stay away from mainly because of the association fee.
Yeah, for sure.
Association fees can really kill your profit.
Absolutely.
Profit is the bottom line. So I love a single family home and having tenants in the property because it's easier to manage and I don't have nearly as many fees.
Wow. So you rent it out for 3 times basically what your monthly costs are. So that's a huge win.
Huge win.
Emotionally, how tell me about your emotions when you are 50,000 in on a project, then another 100,000 in on a project, and you can't really touch it yet. You can see it, but you can't really touch it. Emotionally, what is that like when you are a single mom? It's not like you got an excellent career, but you also have these outside interests.
That is a great question. And to me, it does not get better. But I'll tell you how I felt on that project, and then I'll tell you how I feel right now because they're very similar, just more money on the line. So I was completely scared the first time because I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, I was literally renovating and flipping a house, and I had no prior experience doing it. And on top of that, I had taken money out of my money market savings account. We're talking about my emergency fund. We're talking about if I lose my job tomorrow, this is how I'm going to be able to make it for the next 6 months. So that is extremely nerve-wracking because no matter what, it's a risk. And the fact that we were going over budget after I had a set amount of money, words can't express. It's like putting all of your hope in something and just trusting and believing that it's going to work out. So I was nervous about it. I was on site every day and I probably lost, honestly, a good bit of sleep
Mm-hmm.
But that first project, once I saw success, it showed me how it works. But I don't think that you ever lose like the feeling of being nervous about it. Like now, the project I'm working on, I'm probably $210,000 in.
Wow.
Now, I'm hoping that this house sells for 350, well into the 300s, and I can see that six-figure profit. But until you are at the closing table and
Yeah.
the air has actually touched,
Today like this.
it's not real. It's not real. I've had 3 closing dates so far for another property I'm trying to sell currently, and the buyer has not made it to the table. The wire has not hit my account. I think that you're nervous and you're anticipating the end right up until the wire hits. Now, when the wire hits, you're good.
And you know what? And shout out to the cash out refi too.
Cash out refi
That's so
is
clutch.
great. Yes. Cash out refi is great.
Tax-free situation. Shout out to that. Because that really helped you with your first deal. I mean, it could probably help you sleep a little bit better at night, knowing that now you're cash flowing and you got your money back, So shout out to that cash out refi that you did. I mean, that was dope. Now, did you have a particular strategy? Like, or when did your strategy develop? Like, okay, this is gonna be my niche. This is what I'm gonna focus on.
So that's also a great question. In talking to people, so I knew when I started, after that first project, I knew that my goal was to create enough income monthly off of real estate so that if something happened tomorrow, I could walk away from my job, or maybe my job could walk away from me, and the income from my doors had already replaced it. So that was really my strategy going in, to buy, renovate, and hold, put tenants in it.
Mm-hmm.
Recently, that has changed because I feel like I need to build a little bit more capital. So this will be the first time that I'm kind of doing like a fast flip to essentially take the money and run. I'm not going to take the money and, spend it or buy a new car or anything like that. I'm going to, reinvest the money. But this will be my first project where the whole intent was to make it a little bit higher end so that I can sell it and have a little bit more of my own funds to work with. But ultimately, my goal is more doors, more doors, more doors. Property values, even if they take a hit, they always bounce back. So I am banking on property values staying where they are, and rent always goes up. I never heard of anybody's rent going down. So
Never.
That's what I'm banking on.
So that was your daughter that just walked past, and I know
Kennedy.
What's her name?
Kennedy.
The reasons.
The reasons.
The reasons. So your strategy right now is to buy, develop, and put tenants in it. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Rental
Buy, develop.
income.
And at the end of the day, like, what's your end goal?
Just to replace, if I could get an extra $10,000 a month, and that's modest, because that is extraordinarily doable.
Absolutely.
To me, that's my initial goal.
Yeah.
Initially, I wanted $1 million portfolio, but you'd be amazed at how that happens. 3 or 4 properties in, depending on the value of your properties. And when I tell people that, sometimes they're like, "Oh man, you got $1 million?" No. It's the difference.
Yeah.
$1 million cash and $1 million investment portfolio. So that was my initial goal, to have enough property that I would build $1 million portfolio.
But what's dope about having properties that are worth $1 million? I mean, you could pull cash out of it if you need to.
If you need to, there's so many.
You can go buy a ton of more properties. So we got that first property out the way. You got confidence, you got a little bit of swagger. You get a win. Which is definitely dope. I mean, what as a woman, as a single parent, what made you feel like this was something that you could do, especially being that this market, real estate, especially at that level, is dominated by men when we're talking about getting your hands dirty.
Yeah, it is heavily dominated by men. And I'd have to say that being a mom is probably my greatest inspiration. Um, I was raised in a way to believe that, you go to school, you get a good job, you work a good job, you save, you invest in your retirement fund and you work for all of these years, 30, 40 years, and you retire. And the more and more I started thinking about that and thinking about the things that I wanted for my daughter and my future children, I just knew that there had to be a better way. And I saw people who were less educated, less time, with less resources and less knowledge who were doing it. And that definitely told me, okay, you doing this, I can definitely do you. And it does not take a host of education. It does not take paying for one of these $10,000 courses. They have all these gimmicks out here. Let me show you how to make this money. The best teacher has been experience, and the best reason has been my legacy. And I have not taken a loss yet. That doesn't mean that I won't. No, I shouldn't say that. I have taken losses. And when I mean losses, I mean I've learned lessons about factors, or I've spent 8,000 on plumbing when I should have spent 5. But overall, it has been a win. It's been a win. So for any woman who, for any reason, thinks that she needs not more knowledge, more time, more experience, you just don't. You have to take the leap, take the risk, step out on faith, and do it. And let the reason why you're doing it be your motivation, and you'll be successful.
No, I 100% agree with that. I think the beauty of real estate, is people out there that specialize in plumbing and HVAC. So you can really build a team so that even though if you're a woman or a minority, or if you feel a certain way, you can build a team. And then if you do lose money, that is a lesson, like you said, because I've lost a ton, but at the same time, the things that you gain are worth whatever financial lesson that is, unless you're losing like, millions of dollars.
Absolutely.
So how did you scale to 6?
Um, just purchase and build. I mean, it to me it doesn't stop. Like, so I'm getting ready to finish this project right now. It's already listed as coming soon, but I'm already looking at the next opportunity. I'm always looking at what I can do next. I think it's not a rush game to me. It's not a let me buy something. It's taking your time and being strategic. So, you don't have to have 50 doors. You don't have to have 1,000 doors. It has to be the right project. The numbers have to be right. And what I mean by that is I can have 10 doors that give me the same goal or output that I want profit wise that 60 doors would give me. So just trying to take my time and make the right purchases.
So are these the 6 that you have currently? Are these houses? Any multi units in there?
All single families, no multi units, but I would looking for some. You know anybody?
All
You know
single
some?
families. And you concentrate in what area? In Atlanta?
Atlanta proper. So I have not gone outside of the city of Atlanta, although I would, and that is kind of next. Some people say Atlanta is really saturated, and it kind of is. I mean, investors are everywhere, but it is enough food for everyone out here to eat. So no matter where it is, I think there are properties everywhere. I'm looking now at going outside of the Beltline. I was really focusing in on the Beltline because I could see the trajectory of what was happening there, but it's hard to find a good deal now. So looking elsewhere. Always looking for a deal.
So when you buy a property, are you're looking for properties that are distressed, right?
Yes.
Okay, and you want to add
Previously.
value to them.
Um, so that's what I've always done. I'm a little tired. So I would not mind finding a property that just needed carpet, paint, a new kitchen,
Yeah.
a little makeover, and putting some tenants in it. I have chosen so far the real hard, the knockdown, the fire damage, the completely start
Wow.
foundation. That's what I have done so far. Like the home I'm building now is completely new construction. Like
Wow.
it's a house knocked down to a lot, not even the bricks of the foundation.
Damn.
Um, Searching for the right property. I would love a property that I just need to come in and do some cosmetic repairs and stick some tenants in there.
Man, so how do you who's on your team? Because I would imagine that when you started like that, because my in Chicago, it's a ton of like 2 flats, 4 unit buildings, 6 unit buildings, 20
I've
unit
been
buildings.
seeing you post them for the low.
Yeah, for the low. And not all of them are turnkey, but um it's a lot of them. And so for me, I mean, I'm a licensed realtor, so for me, I could go and find them. But for you, it seems like your team, like who's all on the Tia Lance team when they like once you identify a property that you want, because turnover, and getting that property right, that's important for your strategy.
You're kind of looking at the accountant, the project manager, the contractor some days. Some days I'm the tile person. Some days I'm demo.
Wait, you swinging hammers too?
So there hasn't been a project that I haven't been a part of.
Wow.
It's not been a project that I haven't done something physically. My first project, I did the the stone wall outside. Project I'm doing now, I've done the staining of the stairs and the backsplash and the tile
Yeah.
work. All DIY. Home Depot can change your life.
Home Depot taught you how to do it?
Yeah, Home Depot and my dad, who doesn't live here, but yeah. So
Damn. The most I did was painting.
and painting. I'm actually really good at painting.
Yeah.
Save you some money. Painters are expensive.
Yeah,
Uh,
they are. They
painting.
are.
But my team, I feel like I'm still developing the perfect team. I got a couple good players. Like these people were awesome. I'll use them every time. Like I love my HVAC. I love the guy who does the tile work. I love the people who do my custom kitchens. And there's some other areas where I'm open.
Oh, damn. We not gonna say no names though. Damn. Okay. So, all right. So you get the properties. What about finding tenants? Because that's super important too. How do you find tenants?
That happens so quickly. I have never struggled with finding a tenant for a property. There's never been a delay. If anything, it's been looking at two people's packets and trying to make a determination off of paper who's going to be the best tenant for you.
So what are we looking at on paper?
Program.
What are we looking at on paper? Because you're doing new development, so I'm sure they knocking your door down trying to get in.
Yes, and because of the location, there's just always tenants available. So the BeltLine area that I have property, it's like having a home in DC off of Georgia Avenue. Like, so there's always going to be a student.
Oh, wow.
So it's kind of the same thing. I put students in the first property that I did, which was probably a little too high end for student tenants. So I've never had to go look. They talk to each other, and when one group gets ready to leave, there's always somebody else. And the same thing for my more established property, like my first property that I bought when I was 23, and I still have that. I use Turbo Tenant, and it does like the background checks for you. It has the tenants go in and fill out an application and give you all their employer reference information for you. And I look at that. I review their credit. I review their history and income and make a determination. I usually hire someone else to do a showing, but yeah, that's what I've been doing so far. In the past, I have had property management company. If I'm overwhelmed, I had one, like, for example, when I was pregnant with Kennedy, but for the most part, you're looking at property management.
Man, so you manage these properties too?
Yes, but I do have people on standby. So, handymen, plumbers, all of that. So if a tenant calls me or sends me a text message or sends me an email and there's an issue, I have designated areas where I go and I try to get people out. I don't try to. I get people out at the properties within 24 to 48 hours to handle.
Wow. Is it all general market or is it Section 8 at all?
No Section 8. I did go through the Section 8 program and I found the requirements to be too overwhelming for what I would like. So I opted not to do Section 8 for any of my properties.
Oh, okay. How was dealing with students? Because it would seem like high turnover would cut into your profits.
I haven't had any problems with students other than there's some common sense things, things that when you're a homeowner, you just do. For example, your toilet is stopped up, you plunge it. Everything isn't called a plumber. Some things students just kind of have to figure out, like, the lights are out, is there something going on with electrical? No, let me show you where this box is and where these switches are. You just it comes back on. I have not personally had an issue with damage. I maintain relationships with parents as well. Most of them want to talk to me anyway. Um, so they're, parents aren't listed on my leases, but students have worked, the students that have been in my properties.
What school is this by?
Spelman,
Oh,
Maine
okay.
Spelman, Clark, Atlanta, Morehouse,
Oh, that's dope. That's dope.
AUC.
So are you renting these by the room or you renting the whole house at once?
The whole house.
Okay.
I mean, they have a fee per room, but there's a separate lease if you do a per room lease. So all of my leases, they are all in the same lease together with one flat fee.
Ah, okay.
They break it down.
That's what's up, man. I
There's
wonder
like
if
a
it's
master bedroom. So, there's been one lease where the master person in the master bedroom paid a little bit more and they worked it out. As long as this total amount is my account on the first no later than the fifth,
yeah.
all is well.
No, that's real talk right there. How do you collect the rent?
I give them several options. Each one of my properties is connected to its own account, so I don't commingle, and that makes life much easier for tax.
You official, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely can't have all of it coming into, my personal accounts, but I let them do direct deposits, transfers, Zelle, Cash App, almost anything but cash because I need a paper trail.
Okay, okay. No cash. All right. So is there like a desired profit that you have to make per door? Like minimum
Great
for
question.
things to make sense for you?
Yes. So right now that the minimum has got to be 500. Like it's got to be. Like it's got to be.
Hmm.
Too many things come up. Even in new homes, that home from 3 years ago, for example, the stackable washer and dryer, there was something wrong with the fan. And, that was hundreds of dollars to get it fixed, even though I just purchased it brand new. So I got to make enough profit so that it completely wipes out any type of cost that I'm gonna, incur in the year. At least that's the goal.
Yeah. That's important. So many times people focus on the top number, of what they received and not that bottom line number and all the little things in between that could make that number fluctuate.
And keeping track of that, we haven't talked about the tax benefits and the write-offs and all the other
Yeah, let's get into that.
flow.
Because as an attorney, as one of Atlanta's most powerful attorneys,
Not at all.
Not
at all.
in the C-suite, when you're getting it, when it's tax time, Tia Lance needs her write-offs. She needs that $750 Donald Trump special. So
Trump hasn't made it happen for me, but the write-offs have. I mean, words can't express. Shout out to tax season. It pays. It pays. It pays. If you keep good records and if you make sure that you're accounting for everything, every cost that you incur, I think it's definitely a win-win.
so what are some things that you can you got depreciation, which is amazing.
Yeah,
Um and then you got tax write-off. What are some things that not everything that you can depreciate and things that landlords should be cognizant about writing off?
I think landlords should keep track and keep record of everything. I think good records is just words can't express. And that's just me in general. Because as you mentioned, there's so many little things, repairs and whatnot that you can write off. And even if it's small, even if you are traveling to the facility, or not the facility, to the homes to see the tenants, of course, big things like interest, although I think there was some changes with that in taxes last year. The interest that you pay, the taxes that you pay, all the things that you naturally would do, like that you do on your own property, that you get to actually write off on your investment property. The biggest thing is coming up with a system to track your repairs and how much money you're spending on that, and having that calculated at the end of the year in an easy way for tax purposes. Trying to think about what most people miss, because I missed some things this year, and my tax specialist, CPA, was like, "Oh, you forgot about this, 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 and this," and I'm drawing a blank on what those things are.
Well, yeah, so many things. I mean, you could
Yeah,
write
they're
off
truly
mileage,
yeah, the travel properties.
advertising the property,
Big
basically
one.
every little cost that's associated with operating the business. Pretty
Exactly.
much.
And for me, I started off just purchasing this property. Now everything I do under my LLC. So that's also
So are all your properties under one LLC, or is it like a separate thing?
one LLC, Lance Innovative Management Services,
Wow, look at you.
IMS,
Look at
living in
you.
my season.
That's
Except for
dope.
my initial, because I purchased that property, to live in. And I've had a hard time over the years trying to get that mortgage under my LLC. But from that point forward, it's the LLC making these purchases.
I love that because I have not all mine are under my LLC, but I like the fact that when you try to when you go to the bank and apply for credit, those things don't show up.
Right.
You know, I think that's a huge thing that you know, it's just funny how you don't learn these things until you in it. Like you don't learn it in school. You either got to really read a
Yes.
book or you got to experience it. Cause I just bought a building like 2 months ago, and I was
Oh,
doing
I
that
just bought a
statement.
building.
I was
Y'all
doing
see how
that
he said
statement.
that?
You crazy.
Just bought a building.
A property, I should say. And I was doing that statement of net worth, and I'm filling it out. And then they came back. They like, "Yo, this isn't on your credit. Like, what are you talking about?" I was like, "Oh, it's not."
Yes.
Well, let's keep it off then. You know what I'm saying?
Business lines of credit are the same way. So I have a couple of business credit cards, under my LLC as I'm establishing that business's credit. And so if something happens, or if I'm going over budget on the project, or if I charge anything, all of that is happening over here under Lance Innovative Management Services. But Tia's personal credit is just remains untouched. And it's a beautiful thing because they will refer back to Tia's personal credit score and FICO when they're trying to make some determinations about my business. So it's just a win-win.
No, that's huge, man. So let's talk about this current project you're doing. We trying to get 100K. So I'm gonna follow you
Minimum,
on social media. I'm sure your smile is gonna be a little bit different on some pictures. If you get that
minimum.
that 100K
You will
minimum.
know. You will know. Yes, that is what there's
So
no,
what made you think you could go out here and get 100K? What makes you think you deserve that?
because I worked hard for it. And more importantly, the ARV says that I should get at least $100,000.
Wow.
Just all about the area. So just to kind of throw out some numbers, the price on this particular property was 75.
Bought it for 75.
Bought it for 75.
And you couldn't call a brother. Okay, cool. Petty. All right. Bought it for
That's one of
75.
the last few. I bought it for 75. Had initially planned to be all in at around 180 or so. That's just
Mhm.
the case.
All in 180.
All in
You
180.
looking this
All
spot
in
up.
currently 210.
Okay. All
All
in
in.
210.
It is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,000 plus property in the
Wow.
city of Atlanta. There is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,600 square foot home on the same street that just sold for 389.
Tell them about them comps.
Okay.
Tell them about them comps.
So it's a little bit smaller, but it has better finishes.
Yes.
My particular property. But it's going to be the best comp that I have on the same street for 389. Now my goal is very modest.
$100K. That's all I
For
need.
330 after closing costs. And that's a good point. I always am like on the low end. Like I'm always like aiming for the low end so that I am happy when the appraisal comes back. And in this case, when the sale comes back a lot higher. But I'm aiming for that 330 sale price because after closing costs, that should send me home with about $100,000.
That's amazing.
Right.
Did you ever imagine yourself doing deals where you would net $100K just even as a
No,
little girl?
no. And I don't know why more people, I mean, there are a lot of people who do not earn $100K in their salary
In 3 years.
So to me, it's just a formula that makes perfect sense that anybody can do. What is your purchase price? How much is it going to cost you to be able to sell this property? What do you think you can sell it for based upon what other things are selling for, and sell it and make this profit? And then repeat that. So that's one. Imagine if you did that 3 times a year.
Wow. How long does a project like this take from start to finish?
Don't ask me that in the middle of COVID. I've been on this project all year long because Atlanta was closed for a while. Most contractors would tell you that they can build your house in 12 to 16 weeks. That has never happened for me.
Yeah, that seems pretty fast anyway.
That
So while you building this property, do you have like carrying costs? Are you paying a mortgage on the property?
That is no, not on this particular property. No. So like if I'm using, for example, okay, so it depends on which finance option I have selected or which finance option you would select. If you select to no to the mortgage, because almost no one's going to give you a mortgage on a dilapidated property that no one can live in for $50,000. You're not going to be able to get a mortgage on that. You're going to have to find another way to finance that project. And it also depends if you're living in the property. I know people who have lived in properties and they've done like 2 or 3K construction loans because they've been living there. But for me, holding costs on this project with a hard money lender is a percentage of what you've borrowed from them. So there are a lot of pros and cons to hard money lenders. The biggest con is going to be if you do not finish within that time frame that they have given you, and paying penalties, which can really get you in a time like now with COVID, unexpected, and many people's projects have been delayed for things that are out of their control. But so you might have holding costs like that. Once it becomes habitable, I pay insurance. So I have insurance in case someone walks down the street and burns the house down, so I can recoup my money.
Yeah, for the hard money, you definitely have to have that exit strategy in place.
Yes.
Your team, you got deadlines. You can't really be like, oh, this got delayed because of this. Like the city got to come and inspect it. It got to pass inspection. It has to move to the next phase.
Yeah.
As soon as possible. Man, I'm so impressed because you're doing all of this with the little one. You're doing it as a lawyer. You're doing it as a Black woman. I mean, that's extremely impressive. So I definitely hope and pray that you get that $100K and make that check out to Howard University.
Listen, as usual, it's gonna get something from me every single year.
Love my $100K, but not $100K.
So absolutely.
Damn, that's what's up, man. What else did I want to ask? So okay, taxes, man. So we know that when you get a windfall like that, Uncle Sam is gonna come knocking. What strategy do you have in place so that once you do get, that big payday, that you're not, giving half of it to Uncle Sam?
Capital gains, yeah.
Sorry to bring you down. You was like,
You saw my energy.
you was like, yeah.
There's really nothing that let me put it this way. I don't know of a way to avoid the inevitable. And I don't have a strategy for avoiding that. You know, if you do a quick flip within a certain amount of time, you're gonna have to pay.
Mm-hmm.
It's the price that you pay. The I guess the best strategy would make sure that the profit you are going to get would significantly outweigh what you're going to have to pay in order to complete your renovation and your sale within that short period of time. But I don't know a way around it.
There's got to be some type of loophole out there some way.
If you do, you let me know. Between that and student loans, haven't been able to find a loophole.
Yeah, well,
Anybody,
did the 1031 exchange, how does that work? Does that mean, is that a property that you're living in that you have to go and buy another one within a certain amount of time?
I do not know.
Okay. I'll look that up and I'll text you that. So 6 units, daughter, lawyer, doing it on the side, getting to that, million plus multi-million dollar net worth number, trying to get to that 10K a month. Why do you think most people fail if it's, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's a million things that are harder than real estate. And real estate, after you done 1 or 2, I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's fundamental things that you just do and you know that this is going to be the result. Why do you think so many people fail in real estate?
Why do I think so many people fail?
Or people, period.
I can see how you can fail doing this. It's a lot of ways. And ironically, I think I would say the ways that you fail are many of the things that I did, not being knowledgeable. I jumped into this project and I had never done it before. I didn't know what I was doing. I think a lot of people take on more than they can handle at one time. So I still am not comfortable with having multiple projects happening at one time. I am not there because, it is my money. It is my loan, so like I mentioned in the beginning, how fearful I was because I took money straight out of my savings account. That was going to be my emergency fund money. I'm still very conservative. So while real estate investing is a risk, there's a huge conservative part of me that wouldn't take on more than I don't have enough assets to cover. I just personally haven't gotten there yet.
No, that's smart. Anytime I purchase a building, I always say, man, if these tenants move out, can I still afford it? Or how long can I afford it? Can I afford it for a year or two? Then I'm not going to trip. But I think that's really dope advice. Really dope advice. Tia Lance, you've been a great guest. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks so much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yes, man. You're such an inspiration. Hopefully we can connect at a homecoming or something like that.
Oh, for sure. I know you and the Move Maker's going to be around.
Yeah, we're going to get it popping.
And if I get this 6-figure flip, drinks on me.
Oh, man, I like it as a little martini. It's cool. That's cool. But yeah, that's been a great learning from you. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in to the Go Fish Village podcast, where we help people just like you create financial freedom through real estate. For more episodes, tune in to www.gofishvillage.com. If you're looking for a realtor to help you list your property or find an investment property, contact me. I'm with Premier Chicago Real Estate at www.listwithmercer.com. Peace.